How to stay out of trouble in Indonesia. This is the topic of today's video. I want to talk about this today because I have received two interesting viewer comments the other day regarding this topic. The first viewer commented that in order to stay out of trouble in Indonesia, not only Indonesia, you could also apply, or certainly can apply this advice to other Southeast Asian countries as well. But this viewer said basically three things. The first thing is you don't want to flash your cash. Surprise, surprise, right? This is what I've been talking about so many times already. The second tip he gave is to learn the local language, to learn Bahasa Indonesia, so a little bit, so that you can at least communicate and maybe even small talk a bit. And the third tip he gave is to respect the locals, to not make them lose face, and also to respect their local culture. And for some of you, this advice maybe seems to be a common sense or a no-brainer, but especially the third advice here, to respect the locals and their culture, seems not to be so common sense, especially also here in Bali, because here you hear but you hear some crazy stories going on with foreigners here, tourists, expats, It's really weird and crazy. And these folks, they do not respect the locals and their traditions and their culture. So much for that. Now the second viewer, so the first viewer comment here I would categorize as a more general advice, and the second viewer also made a comment, and I would categorize this as a more tailored advice, tailored to your personality, because everybody of us is a little bit different, right? So the second viewer actually commented that and this is what he is practicing himself in order to stay out of trouble in Indonesia, is remove yourself physically from temptations which can lead to any trouble. He also said to live close to nature, far from tourism, to stay away from booze and nightclubs and all that stuff. And you want to focus on your work, you want to focus on your priorities, and you want to meet local people. And you want to also learn the language, he says, and just enjoy nature. And I'm resonating a lot and very much with this second viewer's comment. This also very much fits my personality. As you know, I've talked about this in my previous videos, what I prefer and what I don't prefer. But I just want to quickly comment, to give my comments on these two other viewer comments here. So what is my comment on the first viewer's advice? To not flash your cash, to learn a little bit the local language, and to respect the locals. This is actually, in a nutshell, the most basic advice I can also give you. If you could only observe these three things, then you are really basically safe. I've released a video earlier this year where I also talk about a similar issue where I'm talking about a guy, an Australian guy who messed up big time here in Bali because he was bragging online on social media. So I will link the video, go watch this video. This is also where I talk about a little bit what you should not do and why you shouldn't brag in Indonesia and stuff like that. again, this is my advice, you wanna be low-key here, no matter where you are you're in Bali or in Jakarta or in Surabaya or Papua. You wanna be low-key, you wanna be low profile, you wanna blend in silently, yeah. You wanna be the fly on the wall, actually, and not hunting around for validation and approval like some of these Western guys and tourists do here on Bali, you know. You wanna mind your own business, yeah. And this is, in my opinion and experience, the mature and safe way to go. Hopefully you are someone who has already by now matured his or her priorities and desires. And what is my comment on the second viewer comment? Yeah, so remember the second guy said he always removes himself from any temptation. He is enjoying nature. He stays away from the crowds, especially from the expats and the tourists and the booze and the nightclubs and the bar girls and stuff. And he rather focuses on his priorities. So I know there are plenty of guys who come to Southeast Asia and also to Indonesia for exactly the opposite reason, right? They don't want to live secluded in a rice field near a volcano. They want to enjoy, they want to let loose, they want to party, they want the booze, they want the girls, you know, sex, drugs and rock and roll. I understand that. I also needed that when I was younger, let's say 20 years ago. And if you still have these desires and needs, and if you need to let it all out of your system, then certainly in places like Bali you can do it. Not so much in other provinces of Indonesia, except maybe Jakarta. Yeah, it's all cool and good. Everyone is different, but this is not my personality, and this is not what I prioritize or want these days, you know. And as I said, you know, so more tourists and expats are around, so more sketchy characters and fishy people you also have to deal with. And the experienced expats among you who have been traveling already to various Southeast Asian countries will actually confirm this, and they will also tell you, be extra careful, especially with other expats. Don't think, especially when you are a newbie. I know how it is. I was a newbie also, and then you tend to hang out with your own buddies and Germans or Americans or whatnot. But be careful, you know. Some of these guys, they are real freaks, and you don't know where they're from, you know. Some of these guys have a criminal record. They are here because they cannot be in their home country for various reasons. I just talked about this with another German viewer of mine the other day. He lived in Paraguay for a while, and he also he told me crazy stories, you know. So there are really, really weird, strange and crazy expats also around everywhere, so you want to be careful. Now, maybe some of you have made bad experiences, especially with expats already. Here in Indonesia you cannot run in any trouble with local people if you just follow this simple rules and advice. Seriously, anybody who runs into trouble in Indonesia is a dumb ass, I'm sorry to say. I've been in Southeast Asia for 20 years. I've never had any trouble with anybody. I mean, I had some trouble, and I will talk about this in my next video. Yeah, I want to be transparent, but I was never in jail. I didn't. No, all these other things. I never started a business illegally. I never was dealing with drugs. I never was caught with drugs. I never, you know, all this crazy stuff you hear also sometimes from time to time coming out of Bali, you know, and other places like Thailand. You know, nobody ever threatened me or my life or with a knife or with a gun. You know, you really, I don't know, if you attract trouble in Indonesia, then you must have been looking for trouble or something like that, you know. But every normal, common sense human being who can follow basic, simple rules will technically never actually run into trouble. And on a side note here, I see the beach now is kind of dirty. I don't know what's going on here. Doesn't look so nice. You have noticed that already also. But anyway, so and as I said, you know, everybody is different and everybody is going through different stages in life. I'm 48 now and I'm thinking differently. I have different wants and needs these days than when I was 28. And when I was 28, you know, I was a crazy guy, yeah. But one thing I can tell you, I never ran into trouble with the law or with the police, okay? The only thing I ever had anything to do with the police in Southeast Asia in my 20 years here was in Hong Kong. 2 occasions I will tell you really quickly. First occasion was yeah, I was so messed up. It was like 7:30 in the morning. I was partying through the night. I was so wasted. I didn't even remember how I made it out of the club. Now I woke up at 7:30, a block away from this nightclub, sitting on a staircase there. And then the police woke me up basically, you know, and 2 cops, Hong Kong cops, they wanted to check on me if everything is okay. Because I was sleeping on the staircase. It was daylight already, 7:30 in the morning, like I said. And I probably looked like shit. So, and these cops were wondering, I just wanted to make sure, is this guy okay? So they woke me up and I actually was then checking my wallet and noticed that all my cards and cash was stolen. Of course, you know, my own fault. And I was actually pissed at the cops. I remember but it wasn't their fault. So anyway, and the second time I had to deal with the police was when my Indonesian girlfriend was in jail in Hong Kong. I have released a video about that story also. So I had to deal with the police to get her out of jail, but you know, I never had any issues with the law here, you know. How can I? So yeah, this is how you stay out of trouble here in Indonesia. And I very strongly and very much actually resonate with the second viewer's comment, you know. Yeah, enjoy nature, stay away from the crowds, focus on your priorities. Yeah, and that's all I can say now. Looking forward to your comments. How do you stay out of trouble in Indonesia or other Southeast Asian countries? What's your strategy? What's your plan? How have you been managing to staying out of trouble? Or have you been in trouble already? And yes, how you got out? Or have you noticed or experienced or witnessed other people who got really, really badly in trouble? So I know there are many crazy stories out there. And I can tell you, most of the time it's not really fun to read through these stories, because it's, for some of you it might be very entertaining, but in reality it's actually really sad, you know. But anyway, that's it for today. Checking out now. Thanks for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you in one of my next videos. Take care. Bye bye.